This morning at 10:30 we had a fairly significant rupture of our water main from our Carson County well field north of town, approximately 5 miles. It was picked up immediately by city staff, and they worked to isolate the break. They worked to begin to figure out exactly what the problem was with that line. That was accomplished fairly quickly, and immediately we sent out news releases with the help of local media to educate the public about the need for a loss of half the water in our community and the effect that it might have on us during the day. And they responded admirably. Typically during this time of year, our water usage on a day is 79 million gallons, and we've been in the range of 58 million today. So the public responded in an amazing fashion. But we're now really to phase 2. We have got that pipeline isolated. There's a 15-foot defect in it, and we're moving to try and replace that, which we hope to have done within 24 hours. But we have automated water systems, we have business, we have retail that continue to use water throughout the evening, and being a Sunday, it's very likely that they haven't had the opportunity to reprogram their systems as they have here during the day with the citizens of Amarillo. So we're requesting they take at this point that special effort to go to their places of business, regardless of what the corporate policy is, and turn off your automated system so that we can conserve water during the evening. If indeed we're able to make this kind of control in water usage over the next 2 to 3 days, we'll be in good shape. Need to make it perfectly clear that the water that you've got currently in your system is safe. There's no problem with it whatsoever, and we believe we can continue to operate like this. We have got redundancies in our system. The commissioners that came before us had the wisdom to build a 500 million gallon reservoir that houses Cremwall lake water in it, as well as some well water, and we'll be drawing that down over the next several days, but it ought to meet our needs admirably. Others? The other people we have with us today are City Commissioner Ellen Green, City Commissioner Lilia Escajeda, and we have the Mayor of Caney, Quinn Alexander. Been nice enough to come over.
Thank you. Same thing. We are in cooperation with the City of Amarillo. We are one of the bigger users, obviously, and right now we're at capacity of about 4 million in gallons ourselves a day. And so when it exceeds that, we have the help of our agreement with the City of Amarillo, and we are too asking our residents of Canyon to please stop your outside watering for the next 2-3 days. We're at capacity right now with our own wells, but again, once it exceeds that amount, we're sure needing the help to conserve our water as well. So we appreciate the efforts of the City of Amarillo with this pipeline at this time, and we commend their staff and everybody for getting on it as hastily as they have. We appreciate that very much. And same thing, the City of Canyon, the residents, please conserve, and especially with your outside watering, and we'll be as to that too. So thank you very much for allowing us to assist with this as well.
I'd just like to say that it's hard to get the message out to 200,000 people at once. And so if you're hearing this message now and you understand that it's very important that we don't use outside watering the next 2 or 3 days, it's very important for businesses and residential users alike to keep our water consumption down, would you please call a neighbor and tell them, and make sure that your friends and family members know that this is of utmost importance. This is very serious, and we need to take it very seriously. The crews are on the pipe and they're fixing it, and we'll be okay if people will conserve the water now. So we're looking for everyone's help the next 2 or 3 days, and if you've heard this message, please pass it on.
We know that tomorrow is a very exciting day for children because they're going back to school, and so tomorrow we expect there'll be a lot of water being used just for normal activities. So please do remember to not water if you don't need to, non-essential uses. And I'm very proud that we were able to get on the problem right away. As you know, we have one of the best water and utility sections in the city, in the whole state. And they were on the job immediately. We have the workers out there, we have the equipment, we have the parts that we've been purchasing over years. So we will get this done as quickly as possible, but please help us and try to consume as little water as possible. Go ahead and do your daily things, but just don't water outside or irrigate, don't do those types of things. Thank you.
We saw our city staff spring into action in a dramatic fashion, and as always, they've done a beautiful job. And and I want to congratulate all our city staff. So at this point, any one of us are available to answer any questions that you may have.
3 questions. How did the city learn of the break? Second question is, how much is it going to cost to fix? And the third question is, do we have insurance for it?
I'm going to turn that over to our city manager, Jared Atkinson, for some of the technical
You
answers.
really don't want a picture of me, do you, George?
Hey, sorry, Jared. Sunday.
Jared's working hard today.
He's trying to avoid that.
Jared working in the field.
Outstanding in this field.
Outstanding in the field. I'm standing in a field. Somebody, young lady there has a picture of me standing in the field. Try to take those in backwards order, see if I can recall all 3. Do we have insurance? We have insurance. Based on the value of the things, though, that we insure, the deductible is extremely high. In this case, I don't expect that we'll come anywhere close to it. What is the cost of the repair? We should know better sometime tomorrow afternoon what the total cost of that repair will be. What we've done throughout the course of today, we have rented additional equipment to come in and help us. Primarily that's pumps, very, very large amount of water that had to be removed before we could get to that. We are using the assistance of the contractor that's helping put in the water line for Potter County. So they were on hand and available. We'll of course be paying them for their assistance and their labor. They happen to be one of the few crews available that is trained and authorized to work on this kind of pipe, so we have them in place. The actual pipe, the replacement pieces, those are things that we have on hand, so we'll not bear a cost on them until it's time for us to go back and reorder and bring that in. How did we know? We knew through a couple of different methods. When the line originally ruptured, there was a geyser coming up above the ground, probably something approaching 30 feet, so it was pretty obvious to folks that were traveling on Highway 136, and thankfully they called. At the same time, the system has it's called a SCADA system, Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition, high-tech monitoring system that lets us watch for differences in pressure and water in tanks. That began to notice that there was something going on at that point. So several points of contact and all of them worked.
And I know next week you guys, Tuesday, will be voting on the drought contingency plan. What does this do to that? I mean, we've been saying we would have to have a catastrophic event to push that drought contingency. Is this going to change the way you guys vote on that?
We actually felt very fortunate to have recently reviewed all these issues in detail. And in fact, we strengthened our drought contingency plan that we passed on first reading last week to be on second reading. But this actually was a situation that was covered adequately by our old drought contingency plan, and we really don't feel like we would have done anything different even if the new one would have been in effect. So we feel like we were prepared for that.
Have you guys determined the cause of this rupture?
At this point, I don't know that we know the cause. There have been very, very few failures of this nature in that pipeline over time. It's a line that's been in place since 1957, and I think in it we've had 3 total failures in it in that entire time.
That's correct, and most of those have been joint failures. This is like only the first or second in the life of the pipe where it was the barrel part of the pipe to fail.
But you haven't determined the cause, whether drought, shifting of the sand, drying of dirt.
Wouldn't expect that it would be that.
Okay.
Typically, when you see problems with a pipe moving around, it occurs more in the winter than it would occur in the summer, even in the dry conditions that we have. The top of that pipe is 6 feet below the ground, so it's down pretty good.
If this has something to do with the pipe's age, do you guys think that maybe we'll replace it or work on doing something so that we can stop this from happening in the future?
I don't know that at this point we can tell that it's entirely due to that pipe's age. Don't know that there wasn't a latent defect that just, over time became a weak point, or was there a pump that hammered the water at the one? We just don't know at this point. What we will do is continue to maintain the spares. This is not pipe that you can get easily, so we'll continue to maintain the stock and the supply of that, and continue to access the help that we need to keep it replaced. If it becomes something more frequent, absolutely, we'll look at it differently.
Are the crews working 24/7 on this?
Yes. In fact, within about an hour and a half, you'll see that whole area out there lit up pretty brightly.
Any estimate on when it'll be fixed?
Right now, our best estimate is that we should be able to have that jointed and started testing it sometime late tomorrow evening, maybe tomorrow night.
What happens if water usage gets too high tomorrow?
If the water usage does not stay down like it did today, what you'll begin to see is an excessive drawdown from the 500 million gallon reservoir that was referenced earlier. At the point that that reservoir pulls down too far, the City Commission will have to implement the drought contingency plan. The old one covers this, as does the new one that is up for consideration. And at that point, we will have to move to much more restrictive uses.
It's my understanding that this pipe brought in 35 million gallons a day. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And we're drawing down from the reservoir 17 million gallons a day. Is that correct?
I'm not sure what the net's going to be. The net withdrawal is going to be based on how much that we use, but you could actually pull it down a little more than that if the use was to skyrocket back up into those high 70 numbers.
But it hasn't been up there because of people's conservation efforts.
That is correct. The effort today, when the public responded, when the media helped us get that word out, it dropped the total demand such that through that system today, we would have only run about 51, 52 million gallons.
What's your source of replenishing the reservoir, and what other sources of water do we have right now?
This time of year, your sources of water, of course, are the Carson County line, which is a 34 to 35 million gallon a day line. You have the water that comes to us from the Canadian River Municipal Water Authority, which is coming now from their Roberts County well field. That's in that 23, 24 million gallon a day deal. We have the Southwest well field, actually the original well field for Amarillo. It brings in about 8 million. It's actually a totally separate system and circuit until it gets to town. It's not influenced or affected by this. The remainder of your water, when you need it, when you use it, is a draft out of that 500 million gallon reservoir. Replenishment would be through the same.
And where does Lake Meredith fit into this right now?
At the current time, Lake Meredith does not figure into this. It's not being pulled or it's not being drafted by Canadian River Municipal Water Authority, so that's not in the system. That's largely what's in the 500 million gallon reservoir though.